the arcade.
Whoa! TIE fighters! Fireballs! Coming right at me! Watch the laser towers. Aim for the tops. Pick in the cannons. Use the force. They're coming too fast! Which way? Which way? My shields are gone! Alright! I'm going in!
What's up, single players? J. Scott Brown here once again, doing a little cheeky discussion video for you at home. Our talking point today is, of course, none other than the well, it's not an issue, but the idea of, can video games not be fun? I mean, in a contemporary understanding of the medium, it's been kind of always intrinsically associated with it. And I guess the question would be, have we gotten to the point where video games don't have to necessarily be fun? I don't know, Jay. Maybe I should watch the video and then find out. Whoa.
Jerry, video games are the latest craze to sweep the country and most of the world, too. Millions of people are addicted to hours of gazing at electronic images on game screens in arcades and in their own homes.
The video gaming world was a significantly different place when it came about in the 70s. For starters, there was a lot less drama. There was no heated debate surrounding the ethics of microtransactions or day one DLC or pre-order bonuses. No, instead, when the kids of the early 80s thought of video gaming, they thought of meeting up with their friends in the arcade, downing a couple orange sodas, and playing for hours and hours on end until their pockets were significantly lighter. It was this coin-operated age of video gaming which laid the groundwork for a stigma to evolve, one that disregarded the potential for video games as an art form. But to be fair, it was pretty accurate. In the arcade era, video games weren't trying to be evocative or powerfully emotive experiences. Arcades were about fun, and video games were an emerging pastime which enabled young people to experience that heightened level of intense enjoyment. Whether it was marveling at how incredible the local Street Fighter champion was at executing combos, or finally managing to break into the leaderboard in Frogger, video games were powerfully irresistible as a recreational tool for having fun. But could they also be something more? This was the question many developers sought to answer moving through the 90s and into the era of console gaming, and it was answered to a varying degree. While there were certainly moments which struck an emotional chord in games like Final Fantasy VII and Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, moments that were so huge and impactful they became entrenched in popular culture, they were ultimately outliers in what was still considered to be the medium for children to dick around in and have fun. And that stigma has remained pretty strong up until pretty recently. It would seem like only now in the last decade we've finally started to see video games be treated by the masses as part of quote-unquote high culture, capable of exploring deep topics and eliciting a significant and meaningful response, one that's not necessarily having fun. This recent phenomenon is supported by a journal article published in Science Daily as recent as April 2015, which found that the majority of gamers appreciate video games more at a deep and meaningful level, asserting that it may be game over for critics who claim that video games are nothing more than a fun diversion. The idea of a non-fun video game is also clearly evident in Papers, Please. Papers, Please is a game where the player takes control of a border security officer, perhaps one of the most simultaneously mundane and absurd premises for a video game of all time. That is, if we're still talking about making a game which is considered quote-unquote fun. However, Papers, Please doesn't care if you have fun. In fact, it almost has a callous disregard for whether or not the player even remotely enjoys themselves. Instead, Papers, Please is about giving the player perspective, allowing them escapism into a world that's undoubtedly worse than their own, but one which is irresistible nonetheless. It takes what is a boring profession in reality and makes it an experience which critically explores human psychology, the humanity of our fellow man, and our ultimate inclination to be self-serving, survival of the fittest. All that from a game about stamping papers. Another recent game which evinces why games don't have to be fun is the latest episodic series by Don't Nod, Life is Strange. While on its exterior, Life is Strange presents itself as a stereotypical high school drama, it is shown to be much deeper as more and more layers are slowly revealed. For the sake of spoilers, I'll be sure to be pretty ambiguous, but Life is Strange examines serious issues adversely affecting young people, such as mental health problems, major depression, self-harm, suicidal tendencies, and drug use, none of which are particularly enjoyable topics to subject yourself to. In addition to all that lovely stuff, Life is Strange is also a choice consequence adventure game, meaning it's very possible to make bad or wrong decisions in the game and for the player's choice to have catastrophic consequences on other characters in the game's world. Again, from a design perspective, it makes very little sense to make the player feel bad about what they're doing. Historically, reverting back to the arcade days, games had to make kids feel good so that they would be stimulated to play again. This approach is basic operant conditioning. Kids would be more likely to pump coins into machines if they were having fun. But as the audience matured, so has the medium, and it's no longer a requirement for a video game to be fun. Of course, there's nothing wrong with video games that are fun. In fact, whether a game is fun or not is completely separate from whether it's actually good or not. If I'm exhausted and I need to escape from the mundanities of reality, I'll happily take Super Mario Galaxy over anything else. But if I suddenly get the inclination for a deep, poignant journey that will resonate with me for weeks, well, The Last of Us is still in arm's reach sitting on my shelf. Ultimately, the greatest aspect of video games at the moment in terms of how it works as a platform is the sheer variety of games which offer diverse experiences, completely tailored to your own personal expectations and criteria as a player. Ladies and gentlemen, those are my thoughts on the whole issue. Again, it's not an issue, but the idea that video games don't necessarily have to be, fun by design. I feel like this is a particularly important idea to discuss in terms of the way the masses and the dominant societal view is towards video games, particularly because we are in this era of video games kind of coming out almost on a monthly basis that don't try to be for fun. They're not intended for children, and instead we kind of start to really embrace video games as a proper art form and platform for telling stories and exploring emotions, resonating and bringing forceful memories out of people and eliciting those really significant emotions. So that's why I feel like it's an important topic, because, and again, this is probably another discussion video entirely, but the idea that video games could be the ultimate way of telling that story, at least with the mediums we currently have. You know, you don't play movies, you don't play books, you play video games. And so it's that level of connectivity that you get from a video game that allows you to experience these, I guess, almost unexperienced emotions before. But there you go. That's another video. I'll leave that, put that on the bookshelf for now. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, follow me on Twitter for more shenanigans across the board and all that good stuff. Follow Only Single Player on Twitter for all the latest gaming news and updates. But that's me done for the day, and I'll see you next time.